And hello there. Today, 31st of July, 2023. Got a lot of news for the 2024 upcoming circuit for VGC, and without further ado, let's jump straight into it. Namely, the abolishment of the Day 2 qualifications. We now have a 3-tier system where Tier 1, just the regular Worlds Invite. Tier 2, the paid trip. Tier 1, paid trip plus round 1 buy. Now the important thing is what doesn't stand there, and that is that the up until now system of a Day 2 invite doesn't exist anymore. So that has become a pretty great equalizer, because the Day 2 qualification has always been a very, very divisive topic. Because skipping over a whole day of competition is such a ridiculous advantage that out of all the things I've seen on all the social media and that I've been on, has been quite unanimously positive. This is a pretty big equalizer for the competition. Because a round 1 buy, not that big a deal compared to a Day 1 buy. So that's a pretty good change, but it comes with a caveat. They upped the point requirement by quite a bit. Like, we're here in Europe, we have a point requirement of like 400 to qualify, which is still 150 more than this year, but it still borders on acceptable, because people in the US had to get 400 points in the past. But 500 points for the US and Canada for the Masters division is kind of brutal. Like, there's always a thing of like Worlds needing to be a prestigious event. Like, if you want to play at the World Championship, it's fair to assume that you need to have a certain level. But with the way that best finish limits works and the diminishing returns with the lower placements of the people that still get points, it's not ideal. That's the one thing that is a bit of a caveat, but at the end of the day, we have also a lot more opportunity for earning those points with the upcoming season. And overall, I can't complain too much, especially because this tiered system also now opens more slots. Because back in the day, the US had like their Day 2 invite with this travel award exclusively for the top 8. Now it extends to top 16 for the tier 2. And the top 12 even gets the round 1 buy with the, okay, tier 1, tier 3, you know what I mean. And for the European players, it extends up to a top 22. While Latin America and Oceania also get more players. So overall, quite in favor of that. The travel awards still seem to be the same. That system is just fine, can stay the way it is. But this tiered system and the removal of the Day 2 invite is already a pretty big change. And it also enables more people to get it, because there's also one other thing about this tier 1, about this 3-tiered system that is kind of a nice change, and that is that finalists for international championships and regional champions automatically get this invite, this tier 1 invite, where they get this paid trip with everything, which is really, really cool. It was always a point of contention that people could literally win a very, very stacked tournament like Jisok Lee did this year and still not have the Worlds invite for the longest time. Like, both Max and Jisok made it. I don't think there's a regional champ that doesn't have it this year, but it's still nice that they're adding more people getting this potentially really, really prestigious thing. The other thing is, like, we also got more dates. Like, the US got their regionals up until the end of May, so people can already pay a lot of stuff in advance. Really cool. Yeah. I would have to look up where exactly that stands. But I think it's at the regional championships. Also, yeah. Championship schedule. Where was it? That's the dates. We get a lot more. Where was? Oh god. Let me look that one up on Twitter real quick again. But yeah, regional champions and international championship finalists get a invite. I would just have to check if it's like a tier 1 or a tier 3. Okay, so it's an automatic tier 3 invitation to the World Championship, so it's not a paid trip, which is a bit of a shame. I misunderstood because in my head it was like the Twitch system where tier 3 is higher. I feel like... Yeah, okay, now it makes sense. Tier 1, sub tier 3. Yeah, Twitch has clouded my understanding, but a regional champion automatically gets an invite, which is pretty cool. Quite the fan of that. Also, an international finalist. But now that I think about it, the only person that wouldn't get an automatic invite from an international championship finals is an American player, so not as interesting. That's a bit unfortunate. But yeah, no, they also have confirmed, which is very important, Premier Challenges and mid-season showdowns are back. No best finish limit announced yet. Someone posted on Twitter that allegedly Premier Challenges are going to have a best finish limit of 6 and MSS are going to be separate with a best finish limit of 3. But there was no source cited, so take that with a grain of salt. It is what it is, though. So all of that pretty interesting. Also more European events. I don't know if I'm going to compete all that much, but going back to like Utrecht would be really cool, and a regional in Poland for the VGC players would be very interesting. I don't know when that happened the last time, if it did. But there's one thing that isn't really talked about as much here that I want to talk about a bit more in detail. And that is a change to the very, very accursed kicker system. Because you need a certain amount of participants to get more and more people championship points. And back in the day it was a bit disliked because you needed 400 people for top 128 points payout and 800 for top 256, which was especially frustrating for like the EUIC and NEIC this year, where it was less than 30 people short of that kicker, which cost more than half of the X3s their points payout. And now this has undergone a drastic change. Because starting from like 128 players, you got a top 64 point payout, where there was previously 200, top 128 getting with 256, where it's like, if it were exactly 256 or people exactly half the attendees would get points, which is a pretty significant change. So this basically means that bubbling points isn't going to be a thing as you know it anymore, where if you went X and 3, in certain cases you had to hope and pray that you still get some. Now, with this point system, I think it's basically very, very close to impossible to bubble points at X and 3. I would have to do the math. But considering that at like exactly 512 people, I think all the top 256 slots would be filled with like X4 players. This is a pretty huge for people that had unlucky placements, where it was like, I think a friend of mine who might be in the chat right now has gotten 129th in the regional earlier this year. So overall, this is like the thing that I appreciate the most about this one. Like the kicker system, meaning that it's a lot easier for people to get those points in the first place and to get those additional championship points. Like, Europe already has 7 announced regionals for this year, 5 regionals to specials, which is already more than we had the entirety of the 2023 season. So a lot of positive changes that also show that TPCI is in fact listening to our critiques, and even though it's not perfect just yet, that in addition to like allowing us to have sponsored clothing on the stream if we apply in advance, and those overall positive changes, except for like the higher points requirement, seem to make it look like the 2024 season might be a fresh wind of change after a bit of an unfortunate misstep throughout the 2023 season. But at this point, that is like the main thing that we wanted to cover with this. If there's gonna be any more, I'm gonna look to cover it in the future, but for now, thank you all very much for watching, and see you all in the next video. Bye bye!